This is Mikhailivsky Square in central Kyiv in Ukraine. And, those of you who have been watching my vlogs for the last 2 years may know that I like to situate myself at a location where I can kind of make a relevant point. And there are several to be made here on Mikhailivsky Square as we mark not one but two major anniversaries. I will reflect on the last 2 years. We'll discuss a little bit about that. And then, as promised, at the end of this vlog, I will be making a pretty significant announcement about where I'm going to be going with these vlogs from here. So stay tuned until the end and watch as I discuss the anniversary, some reflection, and of course, this major announcement at the end. So, of course, the big anniversary is the 2-year marking of the full-scale invasion. And here on Mikhailivsky is where they kind of show some of the detritus of the Russian invading force and the carcasses of their war machine. Right now, I am recording this on the 24th. It is the actual day of that anniversary, and sadly also a day where we see Ukrainian armed forces on their back foot in no small measure because of a bottleneck in the House of Representatives due to, in particular, Speaker Johnson's obstructionism. It is a low point, and sadly, every day that Congress remains out of session and in indecision about a spending bill for more aid that we promised these people, every day that Congress delays, Ukrainians are dying. Now, sadly, Mikhailivsky is also the location of this memorial wall, which stretches all the way down this little street that juts out from the square. And you'll notice that they mark the defense of Ukraine from way back in 2014, which is the other anniversary that we mark, that we recognize this week. And it's right also to be here on Mikhailivsky, not just for this really sad wall where you can see wreaths having been laid, but because in many ways this was the starting point of the revolution of dignity, the Maidan Uprising, because actually this is where people who were opposed to Russian dominion over Ukraine gathered in anticipation of walking down the hill and heading towards Independence Square. And it's here where the forces of President Viktor Yanukovych, who was a despot and put into office at the will of the Kremlin and by some pretty dodgy means, well, they were intending to go down, but the militia forces, the thugs, the jackbooted thugs really, started cracking heads of those who were going down to protest or to make their voices heard on the Maidan. And that so incensed Ukraine and many Ukrainians that they flooded into the capital from around the country. And this is 10 years ago. That's when Ukrainians consider this war to have started. Anyone who tells you that it was orchestrated by the CIA or that Western powers initiated that uprising are telling you lies. I was there. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. It was a grassroots uprising because Ukrainians, I don't know why this is so hard to get through people's head, do not want to live under Moscow's boot. Now also on Mikhailivsky here is a statue of Olga of Kyiv, dear old Olga, the patron saint of vengeance and resistance. And those of you who have seen me doing my podcasts or talking to various programs know that I have a a painting of Ura on my wall from where I have done reports. And so if you'll allow me just a quick moment here to perhaps selfishly reflect on my own memories of these last 2 years and to reflect on them, it is this. I knew I could not sit this war out. I have been to many wars in my life as a journalist, and I had hoped to hang up my spurs and put that period of my life behind me. But I love these people, and I feel a deep affinity for them ever since I've been coming here for over 20 years. And I felt also an obligation because I had been on Maidan. And I made promises that when, not if, the Russians would come to try and take it all back, probably by force, that I would indeed come and bear witness. And it has been one of the great privileges of my life, and I am humbled on a daily basis to see the strength and resilience of the Ukrainian people. There have been dark days. We are in the midst of a dark period because of the West's indecision and its potential betrayal of the promises it's making. And so it is unclear what will happen in the next coming months, maybe years. But I know this, I'm not going anywhere. And I furthermore know that Ukraine will never stop fighting because they know what it is to live under Moscow's cruel dominion. So I'm here till the end. But when I'm done, oh boy, I'm going home. And I will do documentaries about nice things from now on in. You know, I joke about the Pacific Coast Highway, the migratory pattern of the monarch butterfly, or the Great Lakes, doing documentaries about them, putting war behind me. But I made promises on Maidan, and I'm going to keep them. But this is my last war. Now, the last point on Mikhailovsky Square that I'd like to talk about is behind me here. And this is the Hotel Intercontinental in Kyiv. And it has been the base for the International Press Corps. Or should I say it was. Because ever since the conflict in Israel and Gaza began, the reporters, the journalists here have been just absent in large measure. Not completely, obviously. And I want to make it perfectly clear that I am not criticizing my fellow reporters, producers, cameramen, what have you, the guys on the ground here, by and large, with some exceptions obviously, but by and large, are doing really hard work, and I do not discredit their efforts. My criticism has been and continues to be the corporate interests that have wormed their ways into our press, into news. And I also criticize middle management who do those corporate masters' bidding. There is a serious crisis in our the profession, in the profession of journalism, and I will perhaps do a full-fledged vlog about it at another date. But we are in crisis when it comes to coverage, and coverage of this war in particular. I think it has been inadequate. Yes, they've returned for now. They're back at the Intercon now for this 2-year anniversary, but in a couple weeks' time, will they still be there? I don't know. And this is also a very complex story. It requires not just parachuting in for a few weeks and then disappearing again, but actually takes talking to Ukrainians, spending time here, living amongst these people, which is the decision I made at the beginning of this war. And all of this leads me, as promised, for the last part of this vlog, my big announcement. This is a traditional Ukrainian vinuk that I had custom made for me. That is not my announcement. My announcement is this. I am going to be officially starting a podcast that we're going to call On the Edge for a variety of reasons. What you're hearing right now, the atmospherics in this room, the sound quality in this room, will change because we're going to be soundproofing this and turning it. This is an office that I'm leasing that we're going to turn into a proper production studio where we can do this podcast. The music you're hearing will be the theme song for the podcast. This is Prokofiev's Dance of the Nights. This will be our table where we will be able to sit in the ground and have conversations with what I hope will be influential and important Ukrainian voices, or just Ukrainian voices that bring a certain perspective to what is happening on the ground here in Ukraine. This is a traditional vyshyvanka emblem that will be part of our logo. We will also be conducting interviews remotely with people who have influence and something to say about this war. So, on the 2-year anniversary of the beginning of the full-scale invasion, I'm officially announcing the launch of On the Edge. Why do we call it On the Edge? Well, in order to avoid getting into an argument with some of my Ukrainian friends, I will give you 2 possible reasons for why I am calling my podcast On the Edge. One is that the origin of the very name of this country, Ukraine, is said to be from an old Slavic language meaning basically u, or on, and kren, which is either border or ledge or edge. This is in dispute, which is why I'm being careful. Secondly, it might be that I am naming this podcast On the Edge because we are on the edge of one era in human history and moving, or at least European history, and moving into another. I firmly believe that. And so we're going to stay here in Ukraine, even when perhaps other media outlets will move on to the next shiny object. Our intent is to try and keep you aware of what is happening here on a human level, what this means to the people of Ukraine and to the wider world. So it should be our first episode or podcast should be happening soon, within a matter of weeks. We are trying to get everything in order, getting furniture, getting the foam insulation for the soundproofing and all the rest of it. But please, I'll be putting it on my profile here on this channel and in other places where you will find podcasts. I urge you to tune in because we are going to give you what you may not get from any other outlet, and that is voices from here in Ukraine and from those who have a deep vested interest in the future of this country. Join me, won't you please, for On the Edge.